Welcome to Juhl Media Live Podcast. My name's Ching Juhl. Since 2020 March, I have been hosting this program. Today is episode 254. Today is also very special that my guest is Sean Juhl. He is my son. So let's welcome to Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hey mom, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, yeah, I haven't seen you for a while. We both went to China, and you left Shanghai on September 16th, and I stayed in China until mid-October. So, let's first talk about yeah, how how you enjoy the trip.
I had a great time. Yeah, it was very crazy. I hadn't been to China in so long, so a lot of things I remember were not the same. Were very different, and it was nice to see family. Nice to, of course, play the concert at the conservatory and have that class, which is a privilege. So I had a good time. I wish I had more time.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more for people who are in the audience. They don't know what one of the major purpose we went to China is to do a mass class presented. I mean, you're invited by the Shanghai Conservatory of Music to present a mass class. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was, I guess, the premiere for the John Harbison Viola Concerto in China, which is pretty cool. Uh, so I played that alongside some family members, yourself included, and my cousin and my grandma, all doing viola music. So it was a really special experience.
Yeah, so it took me about almost 2 years to plan this whole trip to China. One thing, like Sean said, he has not been back since 2011, which he was 11 years old. And part of the reason was because my mom passed away that year. And then after that, I guess the motivation going to China for Sean is not as um, you know, as much as before. Plus, every summer, right? You have summer festival one after another.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to, like go to China just for fun, rather than you probably rather go to summer festivals, such as you went to some really prestigious. Oh, by the way, Sean is a violist, if you don't know, and Sean played violin when he was 5 years old, and then later when he was 14 or 15, he switched to viola. So he has been playing the viola for many years. And last year, Sean did a great audition before even he graduated from Juilliard School, and he won the position. He won one of the viola positions at Pittsburgh Symphony, which is one of the best, like top 10 orchestras in United States. So yeah, so we were talking about festivals. Sean, what are the festivals you went during like 2011 to 2019?
I'm not sure if I went to anything in 2011, right?
No, 11 you went to China. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think in 2013 you went to King Haven, right?
Yeah, that might have been the first one.
Yeah, that's the first one. Yeah. And
So that was
after
a festival in Vermont, 6 or 8 weeks, so basically the whole summer. Super hippie, super wholesome experience. Um, Lots of chamber music and orchestra and all sorts of different activities. And so that was my first camp. I think the first time I realized that I liked music and I wanted to pursue it a little bit more seriously than I had before. Um, and then every year, progressively, I decided to do different things. And yeah, it was, I guess starting with Kinhaven, and then did I do that for 2 years? I
yeah,
can't
you
quite.
did. You did for 2 years. Yeah, you did for 2 years. And
And
then New York Youth Orchestra, National Youth Orchestra. Then you went to do, was it Perlman?
yeah, so I guess I did 2 years of the National Youth Orchestra, which is run by Carnegie Hall. It's a great program, and then a year of Perlman Music Program, which I wish I'd gone there longer, but I ran out of time. And then I was in college, and then I can't remember what I. Sorry, yeah, it's been a while.
You went to the Academy of the West.
Mhm.
That's one of the really prestigious one, right?
Yeah, I think I sort of regret not doing more when I was in school in undergrad. Part of it was I got injured freshman year, so I couldn't really make tapes that were very good, and so I don't think I did many programs that year. I think I went on tour with the Juilliard Orchestra, but I was a freshman. The only reason I got called was because no one else could do the trip, and so I was like down on the priority list, and I got to go to London for a week, which was great. And I guess I didn't do any serious programs until Music Academy of the West in 2021, which was supposed to be 2020, but COVID had happened, so it was moved a year back.
So we're talking also zigzag a little bit. Let's go back to the Shanghai where you presented a mass class, and we let's see. I was a moderator and a translator for you on stage. We talk about your journey of, from playing the violin, became a violist, and also the audition, and also you coach students. So I have a little excerpts I want to show to people. This is a playlist I created, and so it's easy for me to find. So here is a little bit of Sean. Oh, can you see it? Okay,
Yeah, but the sound
hold
doesn't
on.
good.
That's the loudest, right? The volume is kind of soft.
Yeah, it's basically inaudible. I can't hear anything.
Yeah, this video, there's it's not perfect. You know why? Because bless you, they did not use a special audio. They just sort of use the on stage talking, and sometimes with a microphone, sometimes without microphone. So it's a little bit difficult to hear. Yeah. Um, so now we're talking about Shanghai, and also another one. Hopefully you can hear better. Is that you played two Chinese folk song with me and your cousin Wang Bochuan, and I'm going to oops, I'm going to show one of them. Okay, this is called Celebration, um, and we went through some difficulty arrangement because of the originally we had someone made arrangement for four violas. It's me, Sean, and the cousin, and also my stepmom. and my teacher, Shidi. Then Shidi decided she is not gonna play with us. She feels, a little bit not up to her standards because she's 84 years old. And yeah, so we arranged for three violas now. So we have to like a chop of the music and doing a tailorship. Let's see. So I'll play a little bit. I sing the beginning, but I'm going to skip that. So yeah, now let's talk about how how's your journey just for the last year, a little bit a year and a half since you got the job with the Pittsburgh Symphony from joining them. I think you were playing them already in April of last year, and then you're officially you joined them in June or July, right? Tell us a little bit.
About the whole thing? Or...
Just a little bit, yeah. Just like you joined them in April and then you officially joined them in July. April is like a substitute, and then went to tour with them in Europe. Just share some of the highlight with us, please.
Yeah, it's been a really nice year and a half so far. I guess I started in June of 2022, so right after graduation, which was a big change for me. Learned a lot, played a lot of different rep that I hadn't before, so it's been a lot of learning and trying to stay on top of the schedule.
So
Yeah,
what is your typical
question? Yeah.
what is your typical schedule with the professional orchestra? Like a weekly.
Okay, weekly. So we'll start with rehearsals maybe on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and we'll have maybe a double. So that means 2 rehearsals in the day. So maybe start in the morning at like 10 a.m. and go to 12:30, and then from 2 to 4. So it's not a ton of time, but we can get a lot done in that period. And then we could have the same thing the day after. So I guess a Wednesday would also have a double, and then a Thursday also a double, and then maybe Friday we'll have a morning rehearsal and then an evening concert, Saturday a concert, and then Sunday a concert.
So averagely, do you have one program or 2 programs? Like a week?
Per week it'll be 1, sometimes 2. If it's 2, then it's kind of a lot, but generally it's manageable. Yeah.
So what is the most as you see now after you join the orchestra, what is the most maybe 2 or 3 things is important to be a good orchestral musician?
Probably the first one would be to listen. So listen very carefully, especially as a section player. It's all about being aware and being respectful of your colleagues. So not playing too loud, not playing too soft, just finding a balance in between, but still somehow finding a way to contribute your voice into the sound of the whole group. So I guess listening, I guess watching comes with that too. So not just being buried in your music in your stand, but also staying aware of what's happening, like with the conductor, with your principal all the time, even with your stand partner, like where to play in the bow, what sort of stroke to use. If they're going to take time unexpectedly, you should be able to react to all of that. And then just being prepared, I think, it doesn't take that much time, especially for some of the more simple programs. It's maybe just like an hour or two is all that's really necessary, or like the bare minimum that should be done. Of course, you should be practicing more, but you should know how to play your part before you get there, basically.
How do you prepare a piece you have never heard before?
The simplest way is just to listen to it. So I find a recording, preferably with the conductor that we're going to play it with, so I can sort of get an idea of how they like to take time, where they maybe do some different things. And then I have my part with me, and I'll basically just mark spots that need to be worked on. Because a lot of times you don't really need to work on the whole piece, especially if it's just like holding notes and stuff. Like you can basically do that when the time comes. But you should know any problem spots, any areas that maybe you play with other instruments. So you maybe have to blend sound in a different way, or just being aware of tricky situations, tricky spots that you should take a look at before you get to rehearsal.
When you audition for the orchestra, and by the way, you did such a wonderful job. That was the first professional orchestra you auditioned, and you nailed it. That's just amazing. And at your presentation at the Shanghai Conservatory, and you said something which is very very refreshing, and I never heard you say that to me, or I knew that. And you said you will put a adjective on top of your music, on your orchestra music, because when you play orchestra music, it's all very segmented, right? Very short clip. And you're not telling the story from beginning to the end. It's just like a one clip. And how you're going to play so make sense so well after clip after clip. So you wrote an adjective on each of these sections. So tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so I think that's something I picked up from my teacher, Carol Rodland. Her name for it was, I think it was context cues or something similar to that. I forgot the exact name, but the basic idea is, you just write one or two adjectives for, like, say, a little excerpt, so a piece of music that you have to play for an audition. And those words could be something as simple as like calm or like pastoral, like something that you can immediately understand and get something out of. And it should, for each of these excerpts, they'll all have maybe like a theme or something that the panel is looking for, right? So even if you get onto the stage and you forget everything in the heat of the moment, you at least have that one word that you can look at the top of the page and be like, okay, this is the character that I'm trying to go for this excerpt, and maybe that'll save you if you forget everything in the heat of the moment.
That's a very good method. Jacques Finn is here. Nice piece. He's referring to Celebration, and terrific playing by Sean and his colleagues. Is the actual name of that folk song Celebration? Do you have any answer, Sean?
Oh, I don't know. You would know better.
Well, Jacques Finn, Celebration is not exactly the translation, sort of word by word of the Chinese. The Chinese piece is a, oh gosh, 翻身道情. 翻身is like someone reborn from like a victory. From victory, they're reborn. 道情 is they are being very thankful. Okay, so it's a very long, it's a 4-word letter, but it's a very difficult to word by word translate. So I just translate celebration because they celebrate their kind of a new life. Yeah. And I don't even want to get into political thing. So it can be interpreted to different ways. What is the new life? Yeah. From escaping from nationalism or escaping from the communism. So it's a different interpretation. Yeah. Well, thank you. Dion is here. Thank you, Louis. Thank you, Mark. Yeah. So now I wanted to play a little bit again and excerpts of our China. Let's see. You played this Harbison. So John Harbison is an American composer. He wrote this piece in 1988. So this is considered a modern piece, although it's already it's not 21st century, it's 20th century. In China, my stepmom and my teacher and in China, they have not heard this piece before. So they asked Sean to play this work. However, Sean learned this piece in 2019 and he performed with the Juilliard Orchestra because he won the viola competition, playing Harbison competition. He won the first prize. So they asked him to play this in China this year, and Sean said, okay, but Sean just like hasn't really practiced enough. He hasn't touched piece for 4 years. So it was a lot of work for him to relearn and I guess, study it. So here is the last movement, I think. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, great playing. Now,
You need to
huh?
change your program. You can't hear anything.
Oh, you cannot hear the playing? Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, let's talk about how you relearn, because we were talking about you learned this thing in 2019 and you haven't touched it for a long time. And what's the process how for you to relearn and to be able to perform like this?
Yeah, it's definitely difficult. I mean, the piece is not standard work in the sense that it's super tonal, or it's not like it's very difficult to make it sound good. and I'm not sure that I achieved everything I wanted. I think it was okay, but my main tool to try to relearn it was just to try to do it as much slow practice as I could, just because a lot of it's so weird, and the fingerings are very tricky to get correct, but it needs to be almost effortless for it to work, especially at that fast speed. So I just tried to do a lot of very methodical, slow practice work, and um, just working through the piece in parts, so in little sections, because otherwise it was just too big as a monolith. So I just stressed out about it for months leading up until the concert.
Yeah. So I tell you guys a funny story. So we arrived in Shanghai Thursday night in September. Actually, Thursday night is August 31st, and then we start to rehearse on September the Saturday, which is I believe yeah, just 2 days, 3 days later. After that rehearsal, my stepmom texted me, says she's not gonna play, and I totally understand. But it is a adjustment I have to take, and to think what to do with the music for 4 violas. Now we're have one less viola, and my image of making the film, this is part of film I'm making, is 4 of us on stage, play da 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 da, very festivity, like very celebratory. So and then on Sunday, uh, in the morning, we were Sean and I in our hotel room, or Sean's practicing, right? And we're gonna see our pianist, Sean's pianist, on Sunday afternoon, like I don't know, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And then before we were leaving, like 20 minutes, Sean is like, "Mom, I cannot play." Do you remember? I cannot play. I was like, "Oh, okay." Shidi cannot play. Now you cannot play. So, but I was very calm, right? I didn't get like very what do you call, upset, or I don't know, or angry or anything. So I just told Sean, I say, Sean, um, we're going to rehearse with the pianist, right? So I bet the pianist is not very prepared, just like you are. So you're equally bad. So I was like, it's okay, let's just go, right? Let's go to see what happens, right? So I thought that's a very good good way for me to deal with this, right? Because I don't want to make you more stressful. And but in the meantime, I cannot have you quit either, So we have to work on that. So yeah. And thank you for continue working on the piece, and you sounded very, very wonderful. Yeah. So Mark said, Shockman said that he can hear pretty okay the
Oh,
audio. Yeah.
maybe it's just me then.
He said maybe, yeah. So all the music I play for you, I put it in a folder, a playlist. So you guys, if you are interested in later, you can watch it. Okay. So let's see. Now, speaking of practicing, I remember when I first learning how to editing and how to tell stories, and my my first project is I went to Sean's school. Sean went to Special Music School of America, and because that's my only, what do you call, source of people I know. So I made a short video called Practice. And later on, I changed it to We Don't Like to Practice. It's called. So if it's okay with Sean, and I'm going to play just a little bit of just a very little bit of here and there. Hey, where'd it go? Sorry. No, not this. We do not like to practice. Okay.
Tararam, pum, pum, tararam. Hey, together. 1, 2, 3. What? I don't have words. How many guys do it? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? Do you remember how to do it? Why you are not doing it? Again.
Yeah, so this is the opening. Just move on to a very funny thing. Oh yeah, that's like this video is not very good. I think this video is from a less resolution video downloading, so it's not as good as supposed to be. Okay, here is something very funny.
People like practice, but they just want to look
to myself.
So she says she likes to practice.
meditation for me.
Some people like practice, but they just want to look good and say yes. But some people really do like it, and those people are freaks. But the people who don't like practice are cool because they have the right brain.
So do you remember that, Sean?
No, but I remember the video.
Yeah. So it was pretty funny. And now, speaking of the title of this today's talk is why viola, and I know we have been talking about that publicly several times. For those of them, for those of my friends and people who are interested in the topic, yeah, can you walk us a little bit, like how did you how did the transition started, and are you grateful, are you happy with the result that you are a violist, and why?
What was the first part? Sorry.
Oh, how did it start? How did you, like, what's the transition, like how did it start? Do you remember? You start to play the violin when you're 5, right? And then at 14 or 15, I think at 14, you start to play the viola. And how did that happen?
I think my second year going to summer camp at Kid Haven in Vermont. Did I bring? They asked for a violist or something. I can't remember.
So you started on in King Haven. Well, what I remember was actually you played the violin, and I hope you're not mad at me saying that. You went to audition for Juilliard pre-college, and you did not get in. And I sat down with you. I said, Sean, you may want to consider play the viola. Why? Because there's much more need for violists, like in orchestra or amateur orchestra or school orchestra, right? There's more need, and also you're a very good violinist. When you switch to viola, you're very needed. And then also, I play the viola, and your grandma in Shanghai is one of the best viola teachers in China. So I have all the resources you can have. So I thought you should consider playing the viola. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then you got into, as a violinist, you actually got into what do you call, Manhattan School of Music pre-college. But then the following year, you went to audition for Juilliard and you play the viola. Then you got in. Remember?
Mhm.
Yeah. So for hi Nick, how are you? So for so now if someone do not know what is the difference between a violin and viola, how would you describe it in a very short sentence?
I guess it's just more of like the alto voice, so not the soprano, but the supporting line generally.
And viola is a little bigger, like about 2 inches bigger than the violin.
Mhm.
Viola's only actually is 5 notes lower than the violin, but sounded much lower actually. And it's more, people say viola sounded more closer to human voice. Yeah. Why violin is very high pitched. What else? Viola usually plays as a bridge between violin and the cello. So violists do not shine as the violinists shine because they get to play all the melodies, right? Right?
Mhm.
Yep. So how do you feel now? You're a violist. So would you ever like want to switch back to play the violin, or you're good?
I think I'm okay. Yeah, I don't know if I could, if I'm being honest. So,
Yeah.
it's a different sort of technique, a different beast.
Yeah, but I don't think I think playing viola well is also very difficult
For sure.
because it's much bigger, heavier. The way you handle the instrument require, how do I say, require actually much more attention, I would say. Not that a violin is not. I feel when I play the violin, I feel really easy right now. You know, after I play the viola, I actually like to play the violin because it's so much lighter, it's so much easy to handle. Yeah, it's not difficult. But for viola, I have to really work on it, work as a sound good. Yeah. All
Mhm.
right. So let's see. I want to show something to us. Hmm? Okay. Can you see this?
Um,
No.
Nope.
Okay. Okay. I'm not trying to play this. It's just play by itself. Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is one of my favorite Sean's recording, and he did it in the studio. Actually, it's a classical repertoire. Stamitz, sounding a little bit like a Mozart. And Stamitz viola concerto, and Sean played a cadenza. What is a cadenza? Cadenza is a section in usually first movement in a concerto, in a classical concerto or romantic. And cadenza is where orchestra stops, where the soloists start to shine, start to play this kind of a show off the technique. And yeah, it's a short section of it's like a short solo without orchestra, because when you play in concerto, concerto means it's a piece written for orchestra and a soloist, or could be 2 solos, could be 3 solos. So this is one of my favorite Sean's work. Yeah, very nice work. So back to being a violist. So wait, what happened? You hear that? I hear other music going on. Yeah. So back to being a violist. Now, can you tell us a little bit about repertoire? Why is violin or cello has repertoire for them, whereas a viola has less repertoire traditionally?
Well, the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, but the way I understand it is that in the past, sort of like cello until a certain point, but viola was sort of seen as like a secondary supporting instrument, so not like the violin, who always has um, a leading role. So people who played viola would often just be violinists who played viola on the side, or yeah, it was a supporting role instrument. So there wasn't a ton of emphasis placed on writing music for the viola specifically, because not a lot of people played it as their primary instrument. And so it's only really in the last 100, 150 years that there were people who emerged as like successful soloist uh, violists. So I guess the first would be Lionel Curtis, who's an Englishman, and then William Primrose is another one of those famous names. But unlike the violin or the cello, where they have this rich history of many famous names that you could point to over the last 300, 400 years of, you could call it like classical music history or Western classical music history. There's not a lot of those names for violists, so it sort of makes sense that there wasn't a ton of great music written for it specifically. So that's why we have to play a lot of transcriptions, so pieces that are written for other instruments if we want to play some older music. But the nice thing is that a lot of newer stuff is being written for the instrument, because there's a lot of people who can play it really excellently now.
Like 20th century, that the famous German composer Paul Hindemith, he was a pioneer for viola repertoire, right? He wrote about, is it 11 works, including concerto, piece with orchestra, and sonata and solo sonata. Yeah, you played actually quite a few of his works.
Yeah, Hindemith is one of those composers who, well, he was a violist, at least part of the time, aside from composing. So he wrote a lot of pieces specifically for the instrument to take advantage of its strengths and disadvantages. So we tend to play a lot of his music, which is a little bit polarizing. Some people like it, some people hate it, because he had a little bit of a more atonal style, especially in his later works. So it's maybe not the most casual listening material, but it's written very well for the instrument. It sounds good if you do it right.
Yeah, he himself is a violist. One of his work is called Sonata. Let's see, Opus 11, number 4. That's one of my favorite Hindemith work. I'm trying to locate this to show to us. Yeah. So let me see if I can find it. I'll just play a little bit. All of these is on my YouTube channel. Okay. So you can find it. And this one. Oh, what? This is very lyrical, very romantic, not atonal much. Beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. So Sean, it's true. It's very true. I meet so many people and they say, "Oh, Sean plays so beautifully. Sean has a wonderful viola instrument." So let's talk about instrument. How important is an instrument to a musician? Because a lot of people they may not know. Like people play the piano and they have a piano. Either they have a Steinway or they have a Yamaha, or they have like just few choices, and they have just household piano they can play. But in string family, having a good instrument or this it varies so large, right? So tell us a little bit about your instrument.
So right now I play on your instrument actually. So it's I think it's 1877 Antonio Pedronelli. He's allegedly a maker in Cremona in Italy, but the problem is that we haven't really been able to verify that ever. We've taken it to a bunch of different people, and they all disagree about where it's from or who it was made by, even what continent, right? What country it was made on. So it's a little bit of a mystery instrument, but it's a really special piece because it has such a huge sound. It's just a large thing, so it's a 16
5
and
8
3/4, well, 16 and 5/8 inch,
Yeah.
right? And that might not sound like very big, but it's not only the length of the instrument. So compared to a violin, it's much longer. It's also the width of the instrument. So especially the bottom half of it is very, very, very wide. So playing this instrument takes a certain wingspan, like with your arms, just to like be able to get around it and actually put the bow onto the bridge.
Yeah.
And, the bridge also, considering like the length of the instrument, is kind of in a weird place. It's very far forward, so even compared to other violas that are of a similar size, it's maybe you would put your bow on the string maybe like an inch and a half further away from your chin. So it's almost like you're um, trying to play with this huge distance in between yourself and the bow. So it's kind of a weird technique that I've had to learn over the years with the instrument, how to use it correctly. But
I think it would be nice if you say all of these things to show the instrument to us, like it's kind of difficult to. So why don't you get your instrument? I'll tell the story of how this instrument came. Would you like to know? So yeah, let me tell quickly this instrument, the history of this instrument. And what happened was in early 90s, I got a job with the Phoenix Symphony. That's my first professional job. And so I was looking for a better instrument. I went to East Coast in 6 month time. I went to East Coast, which is New York, Philadelphia, Boston, and then I went to West Coast, which is Los Angeles. I would say San Francisco, some other places. I went to the instrument stores and looked for them, and I couldn't really find. Either they're way too expensive or they're not sounding very good. So yeah, and so I empty home. I went back to my apartment in Phoenix, and then I thought and very hard, and I thought long time ago when I was a student in Indiana University, I read chamber music with some amateur players in my landlord's house. I stayed with someone who is my landlord. I stay with this gentleman. Anyway, so I called my landlord. I asked him, does he know this lady who played the viola when we were reading? Reading means people get together just to read music without rehearsing and just for fun. So I said, this person, can you get me the phone number? So, and then eventually we got her phone number. I called her. I said, I'm looking for an instrument. I remember your instrument sounding really good. Can I try it? And she said, I am not selling this instrument. This is my late husband's instrument. They both of them, they're amateurs. I said, okay, well, if you change your mind, please let me know. Here's my phone number. And, those days just calling each other. And very quickly, about less than a month, she called back. She said she decided to sell the instrument because I think then she's already like about, mid 70 years old. So I managed to have someone bring to me in Phoenix from Bloomington, Indiana, and bring to Phoenix. And I play the instrument for 5 minutes. I said, "This is it." So it's like that. So Sean, tell me, tell us what you were telling us about things on the instrument in terms of strange setting.
So yeah, so this is the instrument. I don't know if you can see it, but it's very long. Like the actual length here is very long. So even if you put it up to your chin, like to reach. I mean, I have kind of long arms, so it doesn't look that bad. But it is a long distance to just
Oh,
get.
Sean, may I interrupt? The violin is about 14 inches. So your viola back is 16 and 5/8. So that's the difference. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's pretty long. Just to get to the end of the fingerboard is a long distance from here to here. The nice thing is that the neck of the instrument is actually really tiny, so it's almost like a violin neck. So when you shift and when you do sorts of other stuff, it doesn't really get in the way, which I really appreciate. Some other violas maybe have a little bit of a beefier neck, and that's just a design choice that the makers make. But I don't think I understand the logic behind making it thicker, if I'm being honest. I think the smaller neck just helps make everything a little bit easier, and especially just move around and stuff. But what I was saying about the bottom of the instrument is if you can see like how wide it is, it completely covers my face. But to like get your arm around that, especially with this instrument, just means you have to come up and over this big hump here, and then to actually play is like somewhere here on the instrument, where maybe with other violas it would be like here. So where the bridge is, the bridge would be like a little farther back. So it's just a weird setup instrument, but it sounds great. So I had to find a way to make it work.
You want to play a little bit? Just
Okay.
pull some sound to us. Yeah.
Okay.
No? Okay. It would be nice to demonstrate. Yeah, so that's the viola. And oh yeah, Christopher. Hi, Christopher. I was earlier, I interrupt Sean and I said, explain to people violin is 14 inches. His viola is 16 and 5/8. So I wonder when I said it in my green room, which I am off the screen, whether you guys can hear me or not. So that's the reference. Yeah. So we're talking about the instrument, right? It's very important to have a good instrument when you are, especially when you are a professional musician. Of course, if you are a amateur or you just play for fun, then you don't need to spend XYZ number of money to get a fantastic instrument. But speaking of, this is like a little education, no kind of a notes. Uh, String instrument is not cheap to get. For instance, like I think the average professional orchestra members, right, when they play, when their instruments probably no less than 20,000. What would you say, Sean?
That sounds about right. I mean, I think when people talk about string instrument prices, they go a little crazy because it seems so ridiculous. But I think if you step back a little bit and I realize a lot of these instruments are antiques, right? They're dozens, if not hundreds, of years old. So the fact that they survived that long means that they're pretty rare, right? I mean, you can go into a store and you can buy an instrument for $500 to $1,000 as like a student, and which is still kind of a lot of money, but um, it you can get an instrument that will play, and that's what you should be using if you're a student, right? You want something that you're not gonna worry about damaging or breaking. Um, and you can still learn all of the technique, all of the basics, all of the stuff that you need to do on that instrument. And then maybe if you're more serious, you can decide to upgrade to even something that's like $5,000 to $10,000, and it'll sound better. But yeah, the unfortunate truth is that for like especially a soloist, but as a professional, it often you kind of need something a little bit more expensive, just because that added cost goes into not only the prestige of the instrument, so like who made it, right? So it's like a brand name. If the brand is more famous, then more people want it, even if it's not noticeably different than the competitor. But it's just the truth that brands have different prices. But also, there are instruments that are made with more care, right? It's not like made in a factory. It's made by a person who took a lot of time to sculpt the instrument. They're all made from wood, so wood is a natural material. So there's imperfections in the pieces, and it takes a lot of skill to like understand how to put this box together in a way that makes it sound great. And even now, it's not like any person has all of the secrets to making the perfect instrument. That's why there's still you can't just walk into a factory and get a perfect violin. You still need some sort of human element to it, I think. But I guess you could look at it like almost like a race car, right? So if you're going to start out, you're not going to be racing like $1 million car, right? You're going to maybe start out like the slowest, the cheapest one, and if you're good at it, then you move up a tier. If you're good at that, then you keep moving up a tier. So you don't need like an expensive instrument to start. You probably shouldn't have one because you might break it. But if you get to like the level that you are like in an orchestra, or especially as a soloist, you need to have a sound that can be beautiful and project into a full hall, and the supply of instruments that the quality actually of the workmanship that can produce that sound is very limited. So that's why, besides all of the branding and the antique part, that's why they cost that much money. But you're not going to be using that instrument as a normal person. You're not going to be buying a $500,000 violin because, unfortunately, you don't, like most people don't have the skills. I probably don't even have the skills to use that expensive of an instrument in the way that it needs to be used. The same way, if you sat in like a race car, like could you drive it as fast as someone who's been doing it for dozens of years? Like probably not, or like you would not be able to do that. So that's I think the price thing is scary because it is ridiculous, right? A lot of them are so expensive, but it's not. It makes sense if you step back a little bit.
And also there's people who are just collectors. They don't play.
Unfortunately, it's also like fine art, right? So people will buy these instruments, especially the more expensive like Strads, and especially like a foundation might buy it as like an investment because over time it's expected that the value will go up. So some people, they will buy it as an investment and then they'll loan it out to people who win competitions or promising musicians, and then they get to play on these instruments without actually having to own them. So I have a lot of friends in school who were really awesome players who got loans for instruments for various reasons, and they got to play on multi-million-dollar instruments for a long time without, of course, having to spend the money, which is nice. But then the problem is that like if you're not so connected, right, then you don't have those same opportunities. But there are always going to be those problems.
Yeah, it's interesting conversation. Speaking of race car, and I interviewed a lot of people in China just for making my film, and I interviewed your cousin Wang Bochuan, yeah, and hold on, I'm trying to find my playlist. Wang Bochuan, and who played a duet with you in China. It's called Lament, and it's for two violas by Frank Bridge, and I want to just play the first few minutes.
The video isn't.
Oh, I don't have it with me. Sorry. Okay, hold on one second. Here listening by myself. Right. Beautiful. I wanted to show this piece to people that this is a duet by a bridge. It's called Lament. And we dedicated this piece to Evan Chen, my brother, who passed away last year this time. And interestingly, when I interviewed Wang Bochuan, which is Sean's cousin, who's playing right now with Sean, and he commented on Sean. He said, Sean's playing is like a fancy sports car. And my playing, I am just a, like a, right. My car is just a sort of a Toyota or something. He said that. So it was very interesting how he complimented you. Yeah, when I was interviewing him. Yeah. So, and Christopher is very naughty. Christopher is my friend from Singapore, and he said, Sean, do you have a joke? He wanted to tell you. Do you have a viola joke?
Not off the top of my head.
No. Yeah, there's a lot of viola jokes. If you Google, right, you if you are next to a computer right now, you just type in viola jokes, yeah, and I bet there must be like 50 pages of viola jokes. The reason there's viola jokes is because you see, it's okay for me to tell viola jokes because I'm a violist. It is not okay for Christopher or for a violinist to tell viola jokes? Well, the reason is historically, like we already mentioned that viola plays the middle voice. That's not a solo instrument, so the level of playing is not as high as violinist or cellist, and then there are less composers wrote original works for viola player, viola solo, viola concerto. So the repertoire is much less. So this is a cycle of not enough repertoire and then not very good skill violas. So that's why there's a lot of viola jokes out there. Yeah. One not very vicious joke is something like, "What's the difference between a viola and violin?" And viola burns longer. So that's one of them. And some are very, very vicious. Let's see. How do you get a viola section to play spiccato? Spiccato means you know, bouncing ball. Write a whole note with solo above it. Now that's very nerdy. People would not know what's whole note. Whole note means just the whole note, like this, like a little zero on the note means usually it's a tempo, it's 4 beats, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Meaning you write a whole note and then the viola will play on it because the violas they don't have control of their bow, so they will play spiccato on it. Yeah. Anyway, so have fun with viola jokes. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else has a question? Oh yeah. My friend Lewis has a nice question, Sean.
Um,
When you have kids, would you introduce them music? I guess that's what I say, like your mom did for you.
I think so. I think it's nice to have that thing in your life. I don't know if I would want them to necessarily pursue. I don't know what the feel will be like when that happens, right? I think the unfortunate reality is that it's quite difficult to make a living as an artist. I mean, that's like always been the case. But there's a lot of my friends in school who are doing wonderful things and finding their own paths. I think we all have to sort of figure out what we want to do and how to make that happen. And um, a lot of them are doing really well, which I'm really happy to see. But it's something that you follow, I think, out of passion, not out of like any rational thought. Like just if you wanted something a little bit more stable. I mean, if basically any other field is probably the safer bet. But I had a lot of fun, especially in like high school, sort of getting introduced into a community of classical musicians who are my age, and because the world or whatever the community is so small, you end up meeting people who know other people. It's always like there's this connection between anybody who does music. So it's a really this is the first time I really had that sort of community around me outside of a school situation. So I think it'd be nice for if my kid was interested at all in something like that to help them achieve that goal. But I don't think I'd like force them to do it. And just see what they're interested in and try to nurture that.
Yeah. Very good answer. Thank you, Sean. And let's back to we're gonna wrap up very soon. We started with the Shanghai, and then can we end with Shanghai too? So, in this trip in Shanghai, which you haven't been there for uh, 12 years, right? And what are the most interesting or kind of frustrating things you had to deal with?
So like yeah, not really musically, but it's just uh, a different system of doing things in almost like every way, and a lot of things were a little bit confusing at first, but they felt very normal after a week or two,
Like
especially
what? Like what?
um, just things like it's just way more dependent on having like a cell phone. So you use your cell phone for everything, and I think that's almost the case here in the States. But um, I remember when we showed up, we hadn't set up our payment accounts like on WeChat or Alipay yet, which is basically the only way that you can pay for any service or anything is just by using a QR code or a payment code on your phone. So there's no cash use really. Like you can use cash, but it's sort of increasingly being phased out. So when we first got there, we didn't have any of our payment accounts set up, and it was really difficult to basically do anything for the first 5-7 days. So we couldn't really call cabs, we couldn't really order food, we couldn't really pay for anything like at a store, unless it accepted Western credit card, which is not super common. But after it got set up, it was pretty easy to just do all those things. It seems just way more like the future in a lot of ways, in some good ways and some bad ways. Even coming from New York, it just felt like so much more ahead in terms of like infrastructure and maybe not to say social things, but infrastructure and physical things in the world were just a lot shinier and newer, maybe at least on the surface. So I was impressed, but I also know like as a tourist, it's much different the experience going there and not having to live there. But I know there's a lot of problems. The same thing here. There's a lot of problems, but it was just very interesting to see how different culturally it is as well.
How was your reaction when you presented your mass class and our performance? The whole hall was filled, and then 30 people had to stand. Were you surprised that kind of attendance?
For sure, yeah. I mean, it felt really great. I was a little nervous, very nervous for the whole thing, just because there were so many people. It was the largest crowd that I think had ever, come to one of my events. So I really appreciated all the work that you did and that Chidi and everybody at the conservatory did to market the event. I know it was a lot of work. So, but it felt good to play to a full hall and to have people listening very intently. And I just wish we had more time for everything. Yeah, it was a little bit rushed, but that's okay. And yeah, it was the poster for the event.
The program page, and then inside is the
Yeah, they do. They have very good graphic designers.
Yeah. So the performances, it's all on this YouTube channel. We chopped into. I did not video them. We hired a Chinese video company did it. Yeah, they did pretty good job, except some of the ensemble piece. When someone plays solo and then they were shooting someone else. But overall, it's not too bad. So yeah, you can check out our my YouTube channel to find all the pieces. Altogether, we played 2 Chinese pieces. I played a What a Wonderful World solo. Sean played the entire Harbison Viola Concerto, and Wang Bo Chuan, Sean's cousin, played a sonata written by himself. And what else? Yeah, pretty much. And then they did a duel. So six works. Okay, great. So anybody else has any comments? We're going to close this very soon. Not everyone has the appetite for music, only the it's funny. Yeah. Shockfin says not everyone has the appetite for music. Only one of Bruce Springsteen's 3 children is pursuing a musical career. I think it has to be immense and organic, and even then it's a choice, right? Yeah. So the entire sort of my role of raised Sean to today Sean became a professional musician. It was not planned, actually. We just like learn how to play the instrument, right? And we gradually, from one step to another step, I never would imagine like Sean would get a professional job when he was 23 or 22. It was not our plan, right, Sean? So I think um, there is like Shockfin said, there is a lot of organic work, and there's no shortcut when you want to learn anything, especially musical instruments. And you just have to be dedicated, consistent, having great teachers, and then have a parent or two, which like whip you around. That doesn't hurt. So it is the consistency of learning and learning correctly, and then practicing smartly, and then just go take every opportunities you can, including school orchestra, summer camp, youth orchestra, you name it. So these, I think, Sean's growing growing these years has a lot to do with these events, these festivals, these institutions that he went, that he learned from his peers, not just his teacher or parents, right, Sean? So I think it's really, really important for if some of you are parents listening or students, you are here, because I have a lot of followers now on my YouTube shorts, and a lot of people, ask questions. They want to learn the viola. They have a lot of instrumental type of questions. So that's just for my take of how someone can become a professional musician, right? There's just not one thing. There's many things. What do you say, Sean?
Yeah, I think that's right. I was very privileged to have a supportive family and access to lessons, access to summer programs, all that sort of stuff throughout um, my childhood, my teenage years, and all that. And yeah, unfortunately, it does take a lot of time and effort and ultimately money to continue doing lessons and of course buying instruments and supplies and stuff. So um, I think the great thing that the PSO does is we have, at least the musicians, we have this fund, this PSO Musicians Care Fund that helps to buy instruments, buy instrument rentals, pay for strings, pay for buses for kids to come to our concerts, all from like Pittsburgh public area schools. Um, those sorts of initiatives help to at least make it possible for people who don't have those financial resources to pursue it, or at least experiment with classical music if they're interested. Because ultimately, it does take some effort and some money to get started. So I want to try to do more work with that if I can.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, so thank you guys for being here with us. And I usually do rapid fire with other guests. I'm not sure if I should do it with Sean. Do you want me to do a rapid fire with you?
Okay.
You okay? Meaning yes or no?
No, I'm okay.
Oh, okay. No rapid fire. Yeah. Well, please check this channel. And also, if you are interested in learning violin, you can check my shorts. Yeah. And all Sean's playing is on this channel. So you can look through. And also, by the way, Sean is a very rounded artist. He is a good cook. So there's several videos about him making coffee, professional coffee, making what is it? What did you make? Oh, yeah, French toast or some other stuff. So he's really good at the cooking department. So thank you so much. And Sean, thank you so much. Do you have a last word?
No, not really. Yeah, I'm okay.
All right. Yeah, Sean is a very modest person, and yeah, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you very soon. And and I thank all of you being here. Christopher, Shockfin, who else? We have Lewis. We have Dr. Jay, we have who else we have? There's a lot of people. Suzanne, and Marianne, and Nick. Thank you so much for being here, and Dion. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, and have a happy holidays. And if I don't see you before, take care of yourself. Okay, bye. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Bye.